Beep. Okay, I think we got the camera recording now. Take a quick peek up there. Blinking, so I think we're recording. So the mission for today is to figure out what to do with this valley pan. This is the oil pressure sender, and where you go in to get the filter for the displacement on demand solenoid. And I actually put a little filter in here. See if we can get this out of here. Doesn't want to come out. Ooh, there we go. Got to move a little bit. Okay. Long needle nose pliers. Let's see if that gets it out. Come on, baby. Watched a very informative video earlier from Melling. Melling's a company that makes, they're the GM OEM suppliers to for oil pumps, and have been for a long time, and they make high performance oil pumps. And in general, they know what they're doing when it comes to GM oil systems. So that was how I found out that this was actually in there. So this is just a little screen filter for the displacement on demand solenoids. So this, for those of you that don't know, on one of these engines, the oil pressure comes up to the sending unit here normally, but on a displacement on demand engine, they also port that off to go through these passages to the displacement on demand solenoids, which are here. This is the connector circuit for all four solenoids that divert high pressure engine oil to the solenoids, and when conditions are right, the solenoids open and allow pressure to go to the displacement on demand lifters. The displacement on demand lifters are then basically put into idle mode, so they don't cause any lift on the actual valve. And since we're getting rid of that system, we're exploring what we're going to do with this valley cover, since I'm a cheap SOB and I don't want to buy another valley cover. I mean, the whole point of doing it this way was to not have to buy parts to defeat the displacement on demand. What we did buy was a set of LS7 lifters, because we wanted to get rid of the displacement on demand lifters, and we bought a set of pack 1218 valve springs, which are a little stronger than the stock valve springs, so in case we want to put a bigger cam in later, we can. Don't know if we're going to do that. I mean, the stock cam will work for what we want to do. I mean, it'll put out enough power. I mean, I don't really want it to have more than 400 or so horsepower, and with one of these engines with the big rectangular ports on the heads, pretty much any cam swap is going to put you over 400 horsepower, which maybe we'll do that later, but we have the option because we have the stiffer valve spring. So I forget exactly how much that was, but that was relatively inexpensive. And the only other thing we've done is put plugs in the valley of the engine, 1/8 inch plugs. So I had to buy 8 1/8" plugs, probably like $4 or $5 at the hardware store. So being able to reuse this valley cover is our aim for today. Now that I'm looking at this a little closer, I didn't realize before, but now I can see that this looks like two separate gaskets. So you have the outer gasket, then you have this inner gasket that's actually in the solenoid assembly. And the solenoid assembly, it looks like it's held on with rivet type things. That's really what they look like. They look like really big rivets. And if you look around to the front here, you can see that they look like really big rivet heads. So my original plan was to just cut these off, pull all this off, but now I'm wondering if it's still going to seal if we do that. I mean, I don't really want to have to drill and plug all of these rivet holes too. That's a lot of work, and we'll have to buy some more pipe plugs too, which is, I mean, it's not expensive or anything, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And it has an easy disconnect connector here. So let's see if we can unplug this first. First order of business, take our teeny tiny screwdriver, stick it down in this tab, and this should come out. With some force, naturally. Or maybe you press this thing. Maybe you pry up on it. One of these things will work, honest. There you go. Okay, that's that part released. These look like, hopefully we can pop these off of here. Give that a try. Maybe not. Oh. Ah, okay. These solenoids are actually held in with some kind of a snappy ring, but it doesn't have ears on it for snap ring pliers. So we'll have to see if we can get in here and pry it out somehow. Might need something a little sharper. Two sharper things. Let's see what we got over here. There, now we've got some pokers and other screwdrivers. Try this one first. Pry it up and hopefully get behind it with this little screwdriver. There we go. Then get under it again and have it snap back. So we have to try again. Try again. There we go. Up under it. Yeah. There we go. We have it going up. Hopefully you can see that. This is where we've gotten to. the little stupid snap ring out of there. There we go. We both learned something. Work this around and out. Yes, it is very windy. That's what all that racket is that you hear out there. Okay, well, that's that. I guess it comes out of there. Get the other four off and then we'll be able to pull this whole thing off. Figure out where we go from there. I can find the end of this thing. Pull it up to the light better. There we go. I think that's it. And behind there. And then pry it up out of there. Okay, I think what we're going to do is, now that you guys know how to pry these things out of here too, I'm going to shut the camera off to save some memory. And we'll come back after we have the rest of them off. Just fit down into a groove in this bore here where the solenoid goes. So now we should be able to pry the solenoids up out of here. I think it's probably just an O-ringy thing that. There you go. One out. Two out. Three and four. All right. So that's that. They are displacement on demand lifters. I mean, not lifters, sorry, solenoids. Pretty strange looking little gadgets. They got O-rings in them. I guess to separate the oil passages. There you go. Won't be using that anymore. Now, just so you know, since we have, no, wait a second. We're going to have to do something about that, I think. So right now, in the top of the valley in the engine, we have these passages blocked off with the plugs, the 1/8" plugs in the block. But this passage here, where we pulled the sending unit out from, is actually still gonna let oil flow down in there. So now we gotta think about this a little bit. What will we do about it? I don't know. I'll take this connector out. I don't know if we'll leave this connector in or not. Maybe, maybe not. For right now, we're going to take it out. If we can figure out how to get it out. Looks like these two plastic tabs, if we squeeze them, we'll probably release it. Hopefully. Oops. Maybe more than that. Probably an O-ring here too. It's making it a little more problematic, but one side released. See if it gets easier if we release this side. There we go. Poop. Pops back again. Now we're in the, at least it's loose enough that it's popping back and forth. We get one popped out and the other one pops in. I don't want to break it because we might actually have to put this thing back in here just to get it to seal. And for those of you who are out there that might need to actually reuse this thing, kind of want to be careful prying it around so you don't break it. Okay, one is popped loose and under pressure with the screwdriver. Being difficult. Okay, I think we've got both of them loose now. There you go. Okay, that's that piece out of there. Until it's got a little O-ring on it too to seal it. Okay, this stuff over here, little filter, high pressure sending unit. So now we're down to just this and what to do here. Think about this for a minute. So, in reality, this hole comes from the oil pump. So, and goes to the oil pressure sending unit, which screws into here. So, we want oil to be able to get to the sending unit, but there's this passageway here which leads to the solenoids. We don't want oil to go in that direction because that'll just lead into here. So it looks like what we can probably do is if we cut all these rivets, we should be able to pull this out, and we'll probably have to stick a plug, you know, down that way into this passage. So, didn't really want to do that, but looks like that's what we're going to have to do. Well, we've got it mangled up, you know, probably worse than we would be if we just used the cutter and the thin wheel. So That's what we're gonna do. Switching to my favorite tool. This is it's a 4-inch, there's a 4.5-inch angle grinder, and you can get these thin wheels for it, and this is like fantastic for cutting through any kind of metal. It just goes. But I don't want to do it up here where the you know, all the engine assembly stuff is. So unfortunately, you won't get to see that part. We'll be back in a minute when we cut these things off of here. Man, there's a camera. That thing is really messing with me. So, okay, we zipped these rivety things off with the thin wheel, and as I suspected, it really made a mess inside here, so that'll all have to be cleaned up now. And even worse, since I have to wear glasses to see and I have to wear safety glasses to use the grinder, I can't really see what I'm doing that well. And we took a piece of our nice reusable gasket with it, unfortunately, so now we got to buy a gasket. Anyway, enough of my problems. On to getting this thing off. I would imagine this just prods off now. Yeah, it looks like it does. There you go. Done deal. Throw that to the side. These things, whatever they are, they seem to be staying in there. So maybe we get to use them. This one's actually got threads on it. As you can see right there. It's got threads on it. So I guess those things, you know, these things that we cut off actually have threads on them. That's odd. Well, I might have screwed up. Because if they have threads on them, chances are you could just unscrew them. So yes, I'm an idiot. Oh well. So I guess now we just take this gasket off. Hopefully we can get a new one, and they don't want to sell it as an assembly only. If that's the case, we might try to reuse it somehow. But anyway, on to bigger and better things. So, ooh, look at that, there it is. So, as you can see, this is the main oil passage, which leads to that hole, which goes to where the oil pressure sending unit attaches. So, what we really need to do is plug that hole, and we are done. Well, plug the hole, clean this up, and hopefully get another gasket. Well, that's good. We can actually, since we can clean this up now, this looks pretty rough because this sits in the engine valley, so I guess water will collect there and stuff, and it's corroded pretty good. So probably want to run a wire wheel off of this on this to get some of the mung off of it, so paint will stick to it and it'll kind of look pretty when we're done. Okay, so we were successfully able to tap this passage to quarter 20. So quarter 20 is not pipe thread, so it won't seal anywhere near as well as pipe thread would if you just, you know, put a pipe plug in it. So we're going to put a teeny tiny bit of Teflon tape on here. And we get the scissors, so we don't need little whiskers in there because don't really want Teflon tape in my motor. In the valley or on the oil side. So probably just put a wrap or two around here just to give it some tension to work against. We're going to use some Hercules Mega Lock thread sealer, or pipe dope as people call it. Some of that down into the threads there. Clean this up with brake clean and stuff so there's no oiliness left on it. Yeah, I know. Some people are going to say, well, that's strange, you're leaving a bolt in the engine. Well, it's not really, it's the valley pan, so there's not really anything there underneath it. I mean, we'll double check, but I am 99% sure that this will work just fine. Pipe dope on my fingers. Ugh. The main thing you're trying to do here is to just not let any of the main oil pressure work its way out of this passage. So there we go. It doesn't go through to this passage, and it covers up the hole. Sticks out about that much. Let's just stick it on the engine here real quick, just to see if it might cause a problem. Paper towel causes a problem if we leave it in there. Take that out. Nope. Fits on there pretty nicely. So as you can see, there's our bolt. Looks like it kind of points right out towards the middle, away from these oil passages for the displacement on demand cylinders, so there's nothing there. You can see all the bolts line up. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so we had to make a command decision here. I know we said we're going to reuse our valley cover gasket after deleting displacement on demand, and when we pulled the solenoids out of the valley pan here, we accidentally yanged up our gasket. So I just did a little shopping at Summit Racing and found a bunch of actual valley covers, and most of them for some reason are very expensive, but some of them are not. So what it boils down to is the correct gasket to fit this engine and this pan costs anywhere between I think 37 and 43.95. GM Performance sells a valley cover that will fit this engine with the bolts and the gasket to fit it, which is meant for non-displacement on demand, so it doesn't have any of this middle stuff. It is just the outer part of the gasket. And so valley pan, gasket, bolts, and it's $42.99. So all of a sudden it doesn't make any sense to use this valley pan. So that's where we are. Just going to order that, and we might, I mean, if it takes a while to get, we might just put this valley pan on and paint the whole engine, and then swap the valley pan later. The GM Performance valley pan is nice because it includes this boss to put the oil pressure sending unit in, which we want to keep because we want to know what our oil pressure is. So I mean, that totally seems like the best option without any doubt. Then it'll just go on there and it'll all work fine.